Archaeologists long insisted that Stone Age nomads wandering Anatolia could never have built the world's first monumental temple. Radiocarbon dating says those pillars went up around 9,500 BCE, 7,000 years before Stonehenge, even before farming. But as new AI-driven three-dimensional scans finally expose their real construction methods, the official story faces collapse. If so-called primitive hunter-gatherers mastered abstract geometry and sophisticated engineering decades before history allowed, what else have we misunderstood about the birth of civilization? The answer turns everything you thought you knew into a fresh mystery. In 1994, when Klaus Schmidt first set foot on the barren hilltop outside Sanliurfa, he recognized something that would challenge the foundations of archaeology. The limestone pillars, carved and arranged in massive circles, were far older than any known monument. Radiocarbon dating soon confirmed the impossible. Construction began around 9,500 BCE, thousands of years before the world's first wheat fields or clay houses. For Schmidt, the absence of hearths, trash pits, or everyday tools was as telling as the pillars themselves. There were no grinding stones, no storage jars, no animal pens, nothing to suggest that people lived here year-round. Instead, the site was littered with animal bones from wild gazelle, aurochs, and boar, hinting at feasts and gatherings, not family meals. Schmidt argued that Göbekli Tepe was not a settlement but a gathering place, a sacred center that drew nomadic bands together. He saw the monument as a catalyst, not a byproduct of civilization. The sheer scale of the project demanded organization on a level never before seen. Hundreds of people converging to quarry, transport, and erect stones weighing up to 10 tons each. Without permanent villages or fields to anchor them, these groups pooled their labor for a shared purpose, then dispersed back into the wild. The work itself, Schmidt believed, transformed the builders. Coordinating such effort, sharing food, and forging new social bonds may have planted the seeds for settled life. This theory turned the old story on its head. Instead of agriculture giving rise to religion and monumental architecture, the desire to build and worship together may have driven people to invent farming. The evidence at Göbekli Tepe, its remote hilltop location, lack of domestic debris, and monumental ambition, suggests a society in transition. Not yet farmers, but no longer simple foragers. The monument stands as proof that the urge to gather, to create, and to believe came first. For Schmidt, Göbekli Tepe was the world's first temple, and the spark that lit the fuse of civilization. Jens Notroff, a leading voice from the German Archaeological Institute, offers a different reading of the evidence at Göbekli Tepe. Rather than seeing the site as the birthplace of farming, Notroff and a growing number of colleagues argue it represents the last flowering of an ancient way of life. In their view, the builders were not on the verge of becoming farmers. They were holding on to the traditions of mobile hunter-gatherers, even as the world around them began to change. Excavations at other pre-pottery Neolithic sites show that ritual and daily life often overlapped. Hearths, storage pits, and traces of food preparation sometimes appear right alongside monumental structures. At Göbekli Tepe, while permanent houses are absent in the main enclosures, subtle clues hint at more complex activity. Shallow basins carved into the bedrock, channels for directing water, and fragments of grinding stones suggest rainwater collection or temporary processing of food. Notroff's team points out that ritual and domestic needs were not always separate in early societies. Gatherings for feasts or ceremonies could easily blend with practical concerns like water storage and food sharing. This perspective finds echoes in the broader archaeological record. At sites like Halensemi and Kayonu, ceremonial buildings stand close to living spaces, their functions intertwined. The evidence at Göbekli Tepe, animal bones from wild feasts, traces of pigment, and enigmatic stone vessels could fit either a purely ritual center or a place where ritual and routine merged. Notroff cautions against drawing a hard line. For him, the real story is not about a sudden leap from foraging to farming, but about a society adapting, experimenting, and sometimes resisting the pull of settled life. The debate is far from settled. The lack of clear domestic remains at Göbekli Tepe leaves room for both interpretations. Critics of the catalyst theory insist that without direct evidence of year-round habitation or food production, the site cannot be called the origin of agriculture. Instead, they see it as a monument to social memory, a gathering place where people reaffirm their shared identity in the face of change. As Notroff and his colleagues continue their work, they call for caution, rigorous physical proof, and an openness to the possibility that the builders of Göbekli Tepe were not simply proto-farmers, but the last great hunter-gatherers of the ancient world. The stones at Göbekli Tepe are not just impressive for their age, but for their sheer physical scale. Each T-shaped pillar stands up to 5.5 meters tall and weighs as much as 10 tons, comparable to the largest stones at Stonehenge, yet carved and moved by people with no metal tools or draft animals. Recent 3D scans have measured these monoliths with millimeter precision, revealing a level of standardization that suggests careful planning rather than chance. The bases of the pillars are set into sockets carved directly into the limestone bedrock, some as deep as 60 centimeters. This detail is not cosmetic. By anchoring the pillars so securely, the builders created a stable foundation that could withstand centuries of pressure and possibly the tremors of the Anatolian Plateau. Digital models show that the sockets fit each pillar so closely that even slight deviations would have made assembly impossible. Archaeologists have found that the bedrock itself was leveled to remarkable accuracy, sometimes across areas spanning several meters. This was not a rough-and-ready job. The builders worked stone against stone until the bases sat flush, distributing the immense weight evenly and preventing the pillars from tilting or shifting over time. There is no evidence of bronze clamps or metal fasteners, contrary to some popular claims, but the stonework alone achieves a kind of mechanical lock. In several cases, the sockets are slightly conical, tapering downward to hold the pillars even more firmly in place. Earthquake stability may have been a practical concern, not just a lucky outcome. The circular layout of the enclosures, with pillars joined by low stone walls, creates a ring structure that helps absorb lateral forces. This arrangement, mapped in detail by AI-assisted scans, hints at an empirical understanding of how to keep such massive stones upright through unpredictable conditions. The engineering challenge is clear. Moving, shaping, and securing these stones required not just muscle, but a sophisticated grasp of geometry and geology. The result is a monument that has endured for over 11,000 years, its foundations as solid today as when they were first set. Quarrying began at the limestone outcrops a few hundred meters from the main enclosures. The bedrock here, known as the Furat Formation, holds a secret. It is soft and workable when wet, but hardens to near impenetrability as it dries. Ancient builders timed their work around the rainy season to split and shape blocks with surprising efficiency. They traced natural bedding planes, the thin horizontal layers in the rock, using stone picks and hammerstones to separate massive slabs with minimal waste. This was not brute force. It was a careful study of the geology beneath their feet, turning the land itself into a set of instructions. Experimental archaeologists put these methods to the test. In 2022, 18 volunteers, each assigned a specialist role, set out to extract and erect a pillar using only stone tools and wooden sledges. The team included quarrymen, carvers, haulers, and even a cook and a field medic. Over several days, they learned that success depended on more than muscle. The wet cut phase allowed them to carve out a 10-ton block, but a single misjudged blow during the drying stage risked splitting the stone along the wrong plane. Precision, patience, and teamwork were essential. 2 minor injuries and a fractured block delayed the project, but ultimately the group managed to raise their pillar into a leveled socket, replicating the ancient process step by step. The experiment showed that a dedicated crew of just 12 to 24 people could handle the entire operation from quarrying to final placement if they worked as a coordinated team. Time-lapse records revealed that most delays came not from moving the stone, but from maintaining tools and achieving a perfect fit in the bedrock. The process was modular and repeatable. Each pillar followed the same routine, suggesting a division of labor and technical knowledge passed down through generations. Far from a chaotic labor mob, the builders of Göbekli Tepe acted more like a guild of specialists, their skills honed by years of practice and close observation of the land. When the Tel Aviv University team ran their first full three-dimensional analysis of Göbekli Tepe's main enclosures, the data revealed a pattern that no one had anticipated. The point cloud models, generated from millions of laser measurements, allowed analysts to pinpoint the exact center of each structure with unprecedented accuracy. As the coordinates for enclosures B and C and D appeared on the digital map, a simple calculation changed the story of the site forever. The distance from B to C was 19.25 meters. From C to D was 19.22 meters. From D back to B was 19.28 meters. The maximum deviation from a perfect equilateral triangle was less than 30 centimeters, barely the width of a human foot across a span of nearly 20 meters. The geometric overlay snapped into place with a precision that left even the most skeptical team members silent. For comparison, the margin of error in modern construction surveys using tape and stakes often exceeds these figures. The AI-driven analysis confirmed what the human eye could not. The triangle was not an accident of erosion or excavation. The probability of three massive enclosures built over different seasons and potentially by different groups aligning so perfectly by chance is vanishingly small. This was not random placement or the outcome of shifting soil. Each enclosure centroid calculated from the front faces of the central T-pillars, locked into a geometric relationship that demanded intentional planning. The data forced a new question. How could Neolithic builders, with only ropes, stakes, and their own intuition, achieve a layout so exact that it would challenge even modern surveyors? For the first time, the evidence pointed to abstract geometry at work, thousands of years before its appearance in the written record. The digital resurrection of Göbekli Tepe began when a multinational team arrived on site in 2024, bringing an arsenal of scanning equipment and custom software. Terrestrial laser scanners, including Leica and Regal models, swept the enclosures at a point density of 3 to 5 millimeters, capturing even the faintest tool marks on the pillars. Drone-mounted LiDAR, flown in overlapping passes, mapped the mound's surface and its hidden contours, while high-resolution cameras gathered photogrammetric data for artifact-level detail. Each scan session produced millions of data points, which were then registered together using GNSS receivers with an RMS accuracy under 2.5 centimeters. The team's workflow demanded meticulous calibration. Every scan was geo-referenced to the Turkish national grid, and each pillar's position was verified by repeated measurements. Once the raw data was secured, a pipeline of open source and proprietary software took over. Point clouds were filtered for noise, and AI segmentation models trained on previous season scans automatically identified relief carvings and architectural features. The registration error across merged scans stayed below 4 millimeters, ensuring that even minor misalignments between sessions would not distort the geometry. Deep learning algorithms flagged anomalies for manual review, while mesh reconstruction software generated textured three-dimensional models ready for analysis. Throughout the process, every stage was archived and stored. Calibration files, metadata, and raw scan sets were placed in university and ministry repositories. The accuracy of these models was checked against legacy GPR and manual survey data, with deviations rarely exceeding 6 centimeters. This rigorous approach ensured that the digital site record could withstand scrutiny, providing a forensic chain of evidence for every measurement and geometric claim that followed. Pillar 43 at Göbekli Tepe, often called the Vulture Stone, stands out for its dense carvings, animal figures, abstract symbols, and a sequence of V-shaped marks that have fueled debate among archaeologists and astronomers alike. Some researchers see these V-marks as more than decoration, proposing they might represent a lunisolar calendar, a tally of months or cycles, etched in stone by hands that track the sky as closely as the seasons. The carved scorpion and the vulture have drawn even more speculation. In 2017, a team compared these motifs to the constellations Scorpius and Sagittarius, using star chart software to match the pillar's imagery to the night sky as it would have appeared around 10,950 BCE. Their analysis suggested not only an awareness of the constellations, but possibly of precession, a slow wobble in Earth's axis that takes nearly 26,000 years to complete. Critics caution that such matches can be subjective and that the statistical methods behind these claims remain hotly contested. Still, the presence of algorithmic star matching studies highlights a striking possibility that the builders of Göbekli Tepe encoded complex astronomical knowledge in stone, long before the first written records or known calendars. Whatever the final verdict, the carvings on Pillar 43 reveal a society deeply engaged with the cosmos, blending ritual, memory, and observation in ways that challenge every assumption about Neolithic minds. Beneath the visible circles of Göbekli Tepe, a different kind of map has begun to take shape. Since 2003, geophysical teams have swept the mound with ground-penetrating radar, tracing echoes through the limestone and clay. The scans revealed something that no spade had yet uncovered. At least 20 more circular enclosures, their outlines hidden under layers of earth. Some of these buried rings are as large as the main excavated structures, while others cluster in tight arcs around the periphery. In one sector, ground-penetrating radar slices detected an 8-meter deep pit, cut cleanly into the bedrock and filled with compacted debris. The evidence points to a sprawling complex, far larger than what the eye can see. Stratigraphic analysis adds another twist. The rings were not swallowed by time alone. They were deliberately buried. Archaeologists have traced distinct phases of backfilling, each layer packed with rubble, broken tools, and animal bones. Over 15 centuries, the builders covered their own monuments, one after another, sealing entire enclosures beneath tons of stone. The reasons for this act remain elusive. Only about 5% of the site has been excavated. With every new scan, the boundaries of Göbekli Tepe expand, hinting at a scale and a purpose that is still out of reach. Today, digital forensics reveal that our ancestors mastered geometry and astronomy long before history admits. As artificial intelligence continues to expose ancient ingenuity, the line between myth and science grows thinner. Göbekli Tepe stands as proof. Knowledge can be lost for millennia, only to re-emerge when technology finally catches up. What else lies buried, waiting for us to ask the right questions?